Josh Harvey of Big Red Report and Fox Sports. We're talking quarterbacks today. No matter how many you have on your team, the quarterback position is always one of the most interesting positions in the class. And today, we're talking about Matthew Jordan, quarterback out of Alabama, and John Garcia Jr., a recruiting analyst in Bama, joins us now. John, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, Josh. I'm always happy to help.
So Matthew Jordan, he's a guy right now that's not ranked, but his offer list just keeps growing. I believe he's at 15 at the moment. He's set to visit Nebraska later this week for Big Red Weekend. Just tell us a little bit about Matthew and kind of his skill set.
Well, he's a compelling kid. He's definitely a new age quarterback. He's lucky to have come up at the prep level at this time because 10 years or so ago, it would be, we want him as an athlete type of thing. But now with what Nebraska's done with Taylor Martinez, obviously Johnny Manziel down at Texas A&M. I mean, you look everywhere you look, there's a spread offense that's actually thriving. So he's that mold. About 6'2", closer to 200 pounds than he was. So he's growing as well. And the constant thing that I've heard about him is that he's only getting better since his junior film came out. And the ironic thing about that is that, like you said, he's up to well over a dozen offers now, and they're getting bigger every time he gets an offer. And that's because of his junior film getting out, and then schools want to see him in person to kind of validate that he can do that. And some schools like Nebraska have said, we're going to offer you without seeing you in person because we're that confident. And I think that's a trend that's only going to continue. He's a big arm kid. He wants to get the ball down the field. He has excellent touch already, which is something not typical for the typical dual threat. You usually think of a guy who's more of a power thrower, throwing in fastballs every now and then. But he really has excellent touch, especially over the middle and down the field where he really wants to push the ball. Still needs to work on his short to intermediate game accuracy, consistency, like most high school quarterbacks do. But what's really special about Matthew is that he can run better than most athletes. I mean, the guy right now would probably be a 3 or 4 star wide receiver if he chose to just do that solely. He's already done it at Alabama. He did it at Auburn today. When he works out as an athlete, coaches really turn heads. I mean, there's a lot of talk that Alabama might not offer him as a quarterback, but there's certainly talk about as an H-back or a wide receiver. At Auburn, a little bit more of a spread offense, so that pending evaluation is strictly for quarterback. He feels he's done very well there. And I think that's going to be the big X factor here because Auburn is the school he grew up rooting for. It is the big in-state school that is more tailored to his skill set. So I think that's going to be a big domino going forward, but we'll have to wait and see. But as far as the skill set goes, he has everything you want to run a spread offense.
You mentioned Auburn, and you're a guy that's probably talked to Jordan just as much, or if not more than anybody when it comes to recruiting analysts. And you mentioned Auburn, how they could be a game changer if they were to throw an offer down after their camp today. Do you think he's the type of kid that's going to jump on it right away, or do you think he'll still want to wait and kind of evaluate for at least a couple more weeks?
Well, see, that's where it's good that he's a quarterback, at least for Nebraska and Alabama and Georgia Tech fans out there, because he gives me the impression that although he is an Auburn fan and he covets that offer, he loves Cam Newton, he really wants it. I still would imagine he would at least give it till another week or two. He's got that visit planned to Nebraska. He really wants to take it. He's still waiting to hear back from Alabama whether or not he's going to be offered as an athlete. He was in Georgia Tech yesterday, Saturday, and he loved it. Obviously that's a whole different type of offense. So there's a lot of options for him, and they're only growing. So I think just being a quarterback, just being the calculated kid that he is, and really a smart kid, because you have the school that you grew up rooting for, but then you have national title contender in Alabama, a perennial power every year in Nebraska that will let you play the quarterback position you want. So there's going to be a lot of options already for Matthew. So I would guess that he would want to wait on. There's a lot of factors that go into it for him. He's very close to Gavin Bryant, another elite prospect on his team. So there's a lot that is going to go into this decision. But the good news, I guess, for everybody outside of the state of Alabama is that he seems willing to travel. He seems willing to kind of stir the pot and see what else is out there. So it's going to be a wait and see, but he's confident that that offer might be coming. He actually said he needs to talk to Coach Malzahn tonight, Sunday night. So I guess we'll know sometime either late Sunday night Monday morning in that transition early in the week, and we'll really get a gauge of where he's at if he does pick up that big coveted offer. But I would imagine he would wait a little bit even if he did.
We're talking to John Garcia Jr., recruiting analyst in Alabama for Fox Sports Next. And John, before we let you go, obviously visiting Nebraska next weekend, one of the things in their favor that they are going to let him play quarterback. It's they were right up front with him, said that that would be no problem. What are some other things that Nebraska maybe needs to do this weekend to kind of propel themselves to one of those top schools? Because while it seems like he's interested at the moment, it doesn't seem like Nebraska maybe is in that top spot or even that second spot.
Well, I think they're close. The fact that he's committed to a visit so far away, outside of SEC country, where it's, as you know and everyone knows, it's kind of hammered into these kids' heads their whole lives that SEC country is where you need to stay. The fact that he's taken those, I think, means that much. And I think you look to the Georgia Tech interest as a kind of a gauge of where he's at. He hasn't gotten those coveted SEC offers just yet, but he's so kind of set on playing quarterback that he's looking at a school like Georgia Tech, which is going to run the triple option 90% of the time. So I think what Nebraska needs to do is kind of what they've already been doing in selling, like you said, be the next Taylor Martinez, be a conventional quarterback, throw even more than Taylor does or more consistently, sell that he can play, he can drop back and throw almost as much as he runs, 50-50 or whatever really he kind of envisions himself as, because he knows he's an elite athlete, but he knows he's a pretty good quarterback as well. And I think that's going to be where Nebraska can really surprise some people and dip into Alabama and kind of steal one of the premier prospects in the entire state. Sell the fact that he can be exactly what he is in high school, which is the clear leader of the team and a guy who's going to just have gaudy numbers, rushing, passing, possibly receiving, kind of sell the fact that he's a jack of all trades that they will use in every single light as opposed to just one or two like most of these schools are selling. So I think Nebraska's on the right track, and I think because he's a quarterback, because he's a calculated kid, I think he's going to take the visit no matter what and give Nebraska their due diligence because they've been so upfront about him playing quarterback and the fact that they want him on campus. So it's going to be a wait and see, but really an intriguing recruitment already, and who knows, it might not even be set to end very soon.
That's John Garcia. You can follow him on Twitter at John Garcia_Jr. John, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Anytime you guys need anything, you let me know.